So why would the King of Spain send George an odd present like a donkey? Wouldn't a king send something more, well, regal? Let's see if we can find out by reading Washington's letters. We've learned a lot about his animals in here so far. Actually, George had been wanting a Spanish donkey for a long time because he wanted to breed mules for his farms. Mules like this one are bred from a female horse called a mare and a male donkey called a jack. He had wanted mules ever since he discovered in Thomas Hale's 1758 book called A Complete Body of Husbandry that mules worked harder and ate less than horses. Can you imagine wanting a present for 30 years? American mules were small and weak, so they weren't very good workers. George would have to get a larger foreign donkey to breed a stronger mule.
The Spanish Jack seems calculated to breed for heavy, slow draft. From these, I hope to secure a race of extraordinary goodness, which will stock the country.
George wanted a Spanish Jack because they were the best in the world. But it turns out that Spain was so proud of their jacks that to buy one, you had to get the king himself to give you permission. Cleverly, George asked his friends in the Spanish court to help him out.
I received a letter from Mr. Richard Harrison, requesting me to use my endeavors to procure the permission to extract a jackass of the best breed, which you wish to import to America.
Finally, the Count of Florida Blanca managed to convince the king to give George a jack, but it wasn't just a gift, there were some strings attached. The king, who thought that George was probably going to be the king of America, gave him the jack as a bribe. He thought that George could help Spain keep their powerful foothold on the Mississippi River, but unluckily for them, George wasn't president anymore by the time they needed his help.
The king has not only condescended with pleasure to permit the extraction of the jackass, which you solicit on act of General Washington, but further, His Majesty desires that this commission should be executed to entire satisfaction of so distinguished a personage.
George named the jack that the king finally decided to give him royal gift. Do you think that maybe George thought it was a little funny too, getting a farm animal from one of the most powerful men in the world? It was dangerous and difficult to sail across the ocean, and Royal Gift had a long journey from Spain to Gloucester, Massachusetts. After he arrived, he then faced a tough 45-mile walk to Boston. George's overseer, a young man named John Fairfax, then picked up the jack and his Spanish keeper, Pedro Tellez, in Boston. George ordered Fairfax to give Royal Gift the royal treatment.
The jacks must not be hurt by traveling them too fast or improperly, and if it is necessary they should be clothed. Provide blankets or such other clothing as their keepers think best.
At last, Royal Gift arrived about a month later on December 5th, 1785. He was very big, 15 hands high with 14-inch long ears. He was also young, only 4 years old. George was excited to start breeding mules for himself. He was also terribly short of money, so was eager to sell the jack's services to other farmers. Unfortunately, in spite of George's grand plans, Royal Gift turned his hooves up at American mares like these. It wasn't Royal Gift's fault. He was young and in a strange new place. George often expressed his frustration at the situation, though he could still laugh about it.
The jack which I have already received from Spain, in appearance is fine, but his late royal master cannot be less moved by female allurements than he is, or when prompted, can proceed with more deliberation and majestic solemnity to the work of procreation.
But Royal Gift got used to his home, and by 1799 George had 58 mules on his farm. The Marquis de Lafayette even sent him a jack and 2 jennies from the Isle of Malta. In the end, George had managed to create a hybrid mule from 2 different breeds that was of a much higher quality than had been available previously. Georgia's new mules helped 18th century American farmers, but they also gave Americans throughout history a powerful partner for mining, war, exploration, farming, and more. So next time you see a jack or a mule, say thanks to the King of Spain and George Washington.